Have your say. Should GB News be taken off air? Is facing calls to be taken off the air following Laurence Fox's comments about a female journalist. Well, I mean, is Laurence Fox part of a programme to get more censorship? It certainly seems so. Scandal isn't the first to hit the channel. Compared to the BBC and Jimmy Savile and so on, I would have thought GB News has done very little. Facing calls to be shut down, following a deluge of complaints. Hey, here's an idea. How about people who don't like GB News watch something else instead? Conservative MP Caroline Noakes joined calls for the channel to be taken off air. I mean, for God's sake, surely it's up to the viewer to decide what they watch. Personally, I think GB News is controlled opposition. In fact, I'm certain it is. And I also think it's quite likely that this whole Laurence Fox nonsense is done deliberately to serve as a pretext for censorship. But if you look carefully at what Laurence Fox said, it's pretty lame. I mean, if somebody said, and I'm sure they have, I wouldn't want to shag him, which is a pretty silly thing to say. I mean, if you're talking about politics, if I said, I don't think we should get involved in a war in Ukraine, it's not our business, and then somebody says, yeah, but would you want to shag him or something? Well, you know, I mean, kind of like I've won the argument, have I? Because you haven't even addressed the points I'm making. I mean, Laurence Fox to talk about that, you know, in the context of an argument about what's being said, it's almost like he's trying to give this person ammunition. But, okay, so the guy was guilty of bad manners, and it is a pretext to get censorship, but in reality, it's not that important at all. You don't take down, I mean, on a channel, you have you hear a lot of people saying lots and lots of different things. Anyone, for example, news channels very often have people on them who are aggressively and actively promoting war, right? Promoting war. And I think that's obscene. Do people contact Ofcom and say, hey, look, I've been watching the BBC and there's some ex-generals there being paid for by arms dealers who think we have an obligation to arm Ukraine or something. I don't like that. I think that's immoral and obscene because people are going to die. No, that's legitimate. You can have those people on. You can have as many of these warmongers on the television as you like. But if somebody says, I won't want to shag her, then the calls, thousands of people, 7,000 complaints. Well, okay, so 7,000 people don't have to watch this. You know, no one's stopping them. There's The Guardian, there's many other left-wing woke organisations, the BBC, you know, who seem to employ loads and loads of rapists. I mean, if the Russell Brand story is true, these offences took place when Russell Brand was a BBC employee. You know, and this is the company with lots of links to Jimmy Savile and Epstein and that guy who used to fuck his daughters and fuck animals, who's got a statue at Broadcasting House, right? Who would want to shag that? I mean, come on, it's so, you know, is this the best they can do? GB News boss Angelos Frangopoulos, a nice English name, should it be Greek news boss, said he was appalled by Fox's remarks. Way past the limits of acceptance. Well, I disagree. I believe that Laurence Fox was rude and vulgar, but big deal. I mean, I think Laurence Fox said something stupid that didn't help him in any way. Mail Online has also terminated his contract. Wootton, who's a columnist for the site. It was taken off air. It was entirely predictable that Laurence Fox was going to come out with a statement that was that offensive. Smirking reaction. So what? Smirking reaction. He didn't, I mean, you're not even allowed to say nothing. If somebody says something that you don't agree with, you have to, are you obliged to condemn it? Let somebody, if Dan Wootton didn't actually agree with what uh, Lawrence Fox said, so why is it Dan Wootton's fault? It's not, he didn't say it. He didn't condemn it, but he didn't agree with it either. So even not condemning it is a form of, I mean, fuck off. And then she says here, I'm not in favour of censorship, but you cannot have this fall in standards. What do you mean fall in standards? The standards couldn't possibly be lower. And the mainstream media have gone along with all the wars. Look, I'm far more concerned about support for war, which the media constantly do, which results in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people, including children, than I am about some vulgarity. Wouldn't want to shag that. It's not even swear words. Journalist Owen Jones suggested the station. I'd like the, you know, if I tell you what, if the GB News goes, can we have the Guardian? These little creeps are disgusting, said Owen Jones. It's beyond belief that this is allowed to be broadcast. Unbelievable. And now they've even got rid of Calvin Robinson. Such a move would be political censorship. Again, unfortunately, having to listen, or not having, because no one had to listen to GB News. How many people listen? I don't watch GB News. And I'm the sort of person I would imagine they're targeting, you know, because they are not quite as woke as other mainstream media, right? But anyway, the bottom line is this. It doesn't actually matter whether we agree or disagree with Lawrence Fox. I would prefer to take, I'd be happy to take over Lawrence Fox's role. But I'd have to say that if I did, I'd have to sort of say, look, before I say anything else, I have to say that I am censored on this platform. There are many things I would like to talk about that I'm not allowed to do so. I frequently, when I was on Twitter, I used to ask Christopher Hitchens over and over again, do you ever self-censor? And he would never ever answer that question. He would not answer that question. It's quite simple. Do you ever self-censor? Do you ever have opinions and thoughts that you're not allowed to share because you're concerned that you'll be removed? My personal view is that Lawrence Fox said these things which are not that serious. I mean, you know, would you want to shag that? Come on. I mean, this is very lame. It's not like you're threatening to kill somebody. You know, it's just a personal opinion. Lawrence Fox doesn't fancy this woman. And he thinks, probably correctly, that her opinions are what's the opposite of misogyny? Misandry, which is allowed actually and encouraged. You can say nasty things about men. There's a war on men, a big war on men at the moment. And it's actually the war on men was actually a war on women, because by removing males' masculinity, it's going to affect women, because women want they want real men. When I say real men, I don't mean men with hairy chests who like the club things on the head. I'm saying men who know what it is to be masculine and male, because masculine men and feminine women create the best looking and best children. It's a fact. What we have now is that men and women are copying each other. So men are becoming more effeminate and women are becoming more masculine. So we can emerge in the middle, this asexual androgyny that they want. This is what they want. I don't want it, but that's what they want. So I'm still not sure whether Lawrence Fox is deliberately doing this in order to create a fake narrative which would encourage censors, because they want to censor us. And Lawrence Fox must know that. So instead of discussing the issues, he said some silly things about her which are not relevant to the argument. But even though I myself don't agree with his words, and I think they were vulgar and counterproductive, I don't think there's anything so seriously bad about them that you have to remove the entire channel. Have your say. Should GB News be taken off the air? So let's go down here and have our say. I'd like to have my say. Oops. But there's nowhere to have our say, is there? So you can't have your say, can you? Ellen Manning. Actually, Yahoo don't really permit much discussion now. They only allow comments on certain issues. For example, they don't want you talking about vaccinations because a lot of people are going to say we don't believe in them, or we think that they didn't work last time. Why have even more? So what difference does it make? GB News, big deal. Is this is that a 33? This looks a bit like, I can't exactly see, but this looks a bit like Marylebone train station. But you see, what people don't realise is that the talking heads and the shows where there's it's a faked debate, right? You know, a lot of people watch TV and they see politicians like Question Time. I mean, it's so fake. They get these very banal people to have a controlled narrative, and they present the allowed versions of events, but they don't present the true versions of events which are beyond the spectrum. So they give you like choices, and you've got to support this team or that team, Man City, Man United, or Liverpool or Everton, or Arsenal or Spurs or something like that, and get people to get a dog in the fight. But the truth is their interests are not there. Yeah. Event booth. Exhibition event. Hmm. Maybe it's just my imagination. No, it's not a 33. It does kind of look like a 33 though. It's just an X. It's funny how you can actually be made to see things. It's supposed to be called pareidolia, where you see patterns. For example, like in a tree. If you look at a tree at night, you sometimes see what looks like faces. And but the number 33 does appear with a hell of a lot of regularity in contexts that mathematically don't make a lot of sense in terms of how often something would appear. It's like if you rolled a dice and it kept showing sixes and never showed any twos, then eventually you'd have to come to the conclusion that the dice has been loaded in some way. But unfortunately, it's very difficult to persuade people of any of that. Thank you for your time.